So yeah, back to that. You do have this exercise lab 6 to do. Um, it's going to require you to finish with 3 different pages. Uh, 2 of those pages you've already got, I think, which is this contact page and this product details page. The 3rd page is new, and there's a little bit of CSS in this. It's a little bit tricky, and so I want you to sort of pay attention to it. Now, the first page there, this contact page, you might look at that and say, oh, well, all of that's pretty much the same. And you've got a distribution, which is the corrected version for Lab 5. And you'll see, so you've got most of the formatting has already been done in a previous lab. But what isn't done is this concept of a sort of a fixed width. So when you finished Lab 5, you're able to sort of change the size of the window. And when you change the size of the window, the components all sort of squished up together. So that's going to change in that one. So you're going to have a fixed area width. And if we have a look at just how that is working, maybe you can see it here. So basically, all of the body, I think, is the same. There's no real changes in there. So you just got this HTML is basically the same. But what you're going to do is you're going to make the width fixed, as opposed to being, oh yes, maybe this is new. I'm not sure if you've got this container. That might be new. So let's have a look at how we're doing that. We're using divs. I don't know if we've actually used a lot of divs before, but inside the body tag, we can put a div tag. In this case, the div covers the entire document. So the end of the div tag is there and the start of the div tag is there. So that may be different than what was in Lab 5. I can't remember exactly from Lab 5, but you will need to have a div for the entire document. Otherwise, you could just style the body. So basically, because this div starts inside the body tag and ends just immediately before the body tag ends, it's the same as if you were styling the body tag. But what you're doing with this, you've given it an ID. I've called it container here. You don't have to call it container, but whatever you call it is how you're going to style it in the CSS. So in the CSS here, we're saying for this one, what we're doing is we're fixing the width. So the width of that container, so that div, I'm calling it container, but it's just a div. The width of that container is fixed at px. Now, if you wanted to have a variable width, you could use a % there instead, right? You could say 100%, and then you could squeeze it in and out. So that's all we've done there. We've set up some automatic margins and some padding, and got a nice background color of white. Now, when we look at that, so which browser am I using to look at that? Where are you, browser? Not these. Sorry, I do have this open. Oh, no, not there. So I'm just looking to see, where did I put this? Not there. I got too many pages open. Bear with me. Close that. Come on. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Here it is here anyway. So if I double click on it, that was the contact support page. We'll see it here. Yeah. Okay. So that's where I've got it open. That's a very small window. That's why I couldn't see it. But the important, hopefully you can see this now, and I do have that open twice now, so I'll close one of them. So I've got product details. Yes, contact support. Contact support's the first one. The 800 pix wide, how that's affecting is, notice when I change the width of the window, none of the details of the table or anything else is being affected by that. I mean, we just basically sort of lose it off the side there. That's because we've set it as a fixed width. Okay, and so that's what we're doing there. How that is achieved, and I'm showing you in Notepad because it seems like in our tests we're going to be using Notepad. How that's achieved is by putting a div around everything and then setting the width to a number of pixels. Now 800 pixels, that's most of our screens that we would look at And somebody's chatting, but I can't see that either. I mean, I got too many windows. My apology. Where's the chat gone? So where are you, chat? I know. Oh my gosh. There it is. Is it mandatory to connect with the college site? Connect with the college site. I'm not sure what's meant by that. Floating objects never float how you want them to. Yeah. Not sure what you mean. Connect to the college. Oh, you mean SIT? Yes, yes, it is. From now on, all of your labs need to be. You're going to need to use FileZilla. That's why we did. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was talking about Lab 5 being complete. Lab 4. This is actually Lab 4, isn't it? Updated to Lab 6. But because Lab 5, what you did
Sure.
is you got connected to the SIT server, and that's where you should be putting all of these things. Yes, sir. There's a question.
Yes, yes. Is there any site, an official site to FileZilla?
Yeah, FileZilla.org, something like that. Why you need to download a new version of it or something?
No, no. I just want the official one, not from any site.
Yeah, FileZilla. Look for org. Zilla.org. I think that would take you to it. It's now the reason why I'm saying org is because it's a open source software, and they typically look at this. This is not org. This is sending me to some very bad place. Be careful with that, right? So yeah, you do need to sort of be careful. There should be a FileZilla org. So yeah, okay, it's filezillaproject.org. Can you see that? FileZilla, not FileZilla.org, but FileZillaProject.org. That would be the official site. All right. So I'm sorry for that. That's what you'd be looking at if you want to. But the only reason to go there is to download a new version of FileZilla, because what happens is you get the FileZilla client installed onto your computer, and you just use that. So it's not like you're connecting to a FileZilla site on the cloud every time you use FileZilla. No, you connect to some server like the SIT server every time you use it. And you get to choose which server. All right, so as I said, I got too many windows open. That, I hope, gives you an idea on what you're supposed to do for the first one. The first one being this contact page, and the idea being, and I'm pretty sure that you've got that idea now, is that uh, you're going to put a div. I've called it container, or we've called it container. You can call it what you like, but we've got a div. Container is kind of like standard way that developers use. They use that term, container, and then that div covers the entire page. All right, so that's the first one. Then the next one, what you're asked to do there is you're asked to make a fixed column for the phone, which sits over to the left, and the rest of the page sits to the right of it. And so that needs to be done now. So how we could do that, again, see if I can find that page. All right, so back here to this. It's I think that's the product details page. Yeah, I think that's the one. So yeah, and so we've got this, and again, the width doesn't change. We see our 200 pix width stays, and the rest of the everything else is in this other part of the page, and that has a fixed width as well. And so how is that achieved? That's product details, isn't it? So let's have a look at how that's achieved. So I think the actual HTML is kind of the same, but we've got these new divs that, yeah, I'm not sure that you've used these before. So what we've got the container thing going, and so if you look at the body tag, the div tag there, that that wraps like an envelope the inside, all of the body is in that div. Then we've got a bunch of other divs. Now, you know, a div is just a division, and they can have names. We've given names to all of these divs. And the next one is we've got a photo one. So you can guess what's going to be in there. That's going to be the stuff that's going to be to the left. That's our photo, and you can see that that is the case because we've got our image tag there. And then after that, we've got our product detail. So somehow we have to get inside this container, this stuff sitting on the left, and then the rest of the stuff sitting on the right. Now we've added one other little feature at the bottom there. So just before we close the div, we've added another little div that we've called grid clear. Okay, so we've got yeah, there should be a closed div tag there. We put it on the next line. That's okay. So we've got now we've called that grid clear. You don't have to call it grid clear. You call it what you like, but the way you have to use it like grid clear. And so it's very important that you sort of put that there. You'll notice that this div, and it starts there and ends there. This that's going to be just inside. So you got a div that's just inside the container div. So if the container div opens there and closes as the last div tag inside the body, then just before it closes, we've got this grid clear. What that allows us to do is line up the different elements inside the container. And so we see we're actually styling the grid clear here just to clear things from the left. And so what we're going to do is we're going to float things from the left so that we got a left column and a right column. And then we're going to, at the end, last thing inside the container is we're going to clear it out from the left. And that's why we give this name grid clear. You don't have to call it grid clear, but it's just a sort of a logical sort of term that we're using there. So we've got these two main divs. We've got our container there, and then three divs, haven't we? Or four divs if you count the grid clear. The containers containing everything, and the width has been fixed to 800 pix, just like so. Basically, just the same as the contact details. That then we've got our other divs. Okay, so we've got a main which is inside the container, and our photo. Oh, okay, let's see. That's not so. I'm sorry. I just have to look at the main and see exactly what they're doing with the main because I didn't notice it. Yeah, I don't see it there, right? Maybe it's for the yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, that the main is just for the table. Okay, so that's a leftover from a previous lab, right? So the main is just for the table so that we could do that column span for the table. So if you remember this, the main is just this thing here for the main characteristics. So that's why I didn't remember it. All right. So but the main divs that don't use that word. The most important divs that we've got in here, we've got one for the photo and we've got one for the product details. And notice how they follow one after the other. And so that means we can line them up one after the other. If we floated this one left and floated this one left, then this would line up and the other one would line up beside it. And that's basically what we're doing there. So that's product photo and product details. So product photo, we float it to the left and we make it only 200 pix wide. Then product details, we also float it to the left, but we make it 600. So this will make them fall into line one beside the other. All right. So product photo will go to the left inside the container, and then beside it we'll slot down product details. Now, this little bit of styling that's going on here, do you notice? I don't know if you've seen this in CSS before, but what you can do is with the product photo, we know that we've got an image tag inside the product photo. So here's our div, which we've called product photo. There's an image tag inside it. And so we're styling the image tag separately So we're giving it its own styling. And so how we can make sure that we get that image tag and not some other image tag is we say, basically what we're saying here is style the image tag that's found inside the product photo div. And this is the way we're styling it. Now, making it 100% is going to make it take up that the full width of that 200 pics that it's been allowed. Then, yeah, the clear to left is going to make that sort of one thing slot in to another. Now, these kind of build on each other. So if you, the best way to do this lab is to do the contact table first, then this one, then lastly, you're going to do the product listing. And product listing, oh my God, look at that. That is going to blow you away. But the way to do this thing is, again, bearing in mind. So what did we do at the previous page? We slotted one thing down in the left and the next one slotted in beside it. That's exactly how this is going to work. You're going to slot one product down to the left, then the next one, then the next one. We're going to use a grid. And so that means that we're going to put all of this thing inside a container. And then we're going to have another little div at the end, which is going to be our grid clear. And then we're going to clear everything from the left. We're going to make these a fixed width for each of these sort of these are elements of HTML here. Each of them is going to be called a product element or something like that. They're going to have the photo in it. The photo is probably going to take up like 100% of the width, or maybe the photo will be given a fixed width, 254 off the top of my head, something like that. And so what's going to happen is we're going to do a little bit of math. We're going to say, okay, so the width of this page is so many pics divided by 3 minus a bit so that we got a bit channel between them. And that'll be the width of each of these elements here. And then we'll make them float to the left so they'll slot into space beside each other. Then we'll grid clear at the end, clear everything from the left, and that will kind of work. So it's a little bit tricky, but that's kind of what's happening there. Let's look at the code for that. So we have to, and the best way to build the code for this, you have to make your own HTML for this. So the best way to do this is to do it one product at a time. So what you'll notice is this bit of code here, is repeated over and over again for all of the elements there. Now, when I say all of the elements there, I should point out to you that you've got in the distribution that you're given, you should have a bunch of photos, images that are given to you in the distribution, and you need to put them into a folder for images, and then you can work with them in your product list. So the product list is going to refer to each of those images, one image at a time. But the code is very repetitive. That is, 6 times you're going to do this bit of code. The only difference is going to be the names of the files that are mentioned. All right. And yeah, well, we got a little bit of difference in height. That's just because of the particulars of those particular JPEG images. So yeah, so you just, and the description details will be different, but now, so we're using classes here. Now, why we use classes is because, look, we got the product class here. Product class shows up 6 times. Each of these bits of code is going to have a product class. Then inside the product class, you're going to have a product image class, and that's going to show up 6 times. And then you're going to have a description class inside the product class. So that means that we can style them just once, right? So we can style the product class dot product. That's going to style the product class, and we're going to give that class, which is going to turn out when we look at it. Where did I put those in? Yeah, here it is. It's going to turn out, so we're going to end up, when we style the product class is this thing that has this dotted line around it. That's the product class. And the product class has got a product image, and so that's the thing that's sitting at the top there with the image, and that has got a sort of did we fix the width on that product image? No, all we did was we aligned it to the center inside the now this alignment that's happening here for the product image, that is relative to the element in which the product image is embedded. And the product image, if we look at our container, and again I say do this one at a time, if we look at our container, we'll see that the product image is inside the product um, uh, product element. And so we style the product element and we made it a certain width. And we did some things with the border and we floated everything to the left. The floating to the left is really important because what that means is that the first product is going to fit there in the most left position. Then the next one will go to the next to the most left position available to it, which will be sitting in beside that one. And because we've done our math and we know that 800 picks, I think we set the contain. If we go and look at the container width, yeah, so the container is just is styled exactly the same here as it was in the other two pages. And so we've got a width of 800 picks. If you take your 258 and multiply that by 3, you get some number which is less than 800, but not much less than 800. And the difference ends up as these channels between the product. So our product is then divided into a product image, and it's divided into, and the other one is the description. So the description, there's no big deal about that. It's just aligned to the center, and so is the product itself. Then we see that the product image is given a particular height. The height is fixed to 258 pixels. Sorry, I thought, right, the width is actually, oh, sorry, that I'm looking at the image inside the image. Yeah, the product image itself, oh, product is given a width of 258. And then the image takes up the height is fixed for the image, but then the width is going to be sort of just automatic. Well, and that's what it says. Then okay, that's just sort of little bits. Now it's very important, and I've already said this, but it is very important that we have, you don't need to use the word grid clear, you can call it what you like, but it's been used as grid clear here. It's going to be a div inside the container div and just before the end of the container div. And then if you don't do that, your little elements won't line up nicely inside the page. So the 258 is kind of important because of the width that we set for the entire page. Yeah. What else to say? I'm starting to repeat myself now. What you should do, I suppose, is get this little bit of code right for the first image, and then you can just copy and paste and then do a bit of editing. And what you'll edit, it will be the names of the images, and you might have to play around with the width and the height a little bit. And yeah, and then change the description, and you can do that 6 times. So we've got the same code repeated 6 times, and that gives us our 6 images. When those 6 images are done, at the end of the last one, we put a new div, which allows us to clear everything from the left. Now, what other coding have we got in there? So the container, this little bit of code styling the container, that's basically exactly the same as in the other 2 pages. So we're making all of these pages exactly 800 pixels wide, and we're doing our padding the same. So that gives everything a nice consistency. And so you see that little bit of code is going to be the same for all 3 pages. The big difference in the product list page, which is the trickiest one, is the fact that we've got this repetition. Very, very important that you do your alignment to the left, and so that they all your float to the left, so that they all fall in one after the other, left to right. And also very important that you get that width right. So whatever you've set the width of the entire document, and what we have set the width to is 800 pixels, then because we want 3 of them to fall in together, then we set the product to be some value which is a little bit less than 800 divided by 3. I don't know what 800 divided by 3 is exactly, but yeah. It's going to be a decimal. And so that's kind of it. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask about that. So there's the chat. Nope, nothing. I got 10 minutes left. I'm going to pause just a last look at those. The 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 um the tricky bit for the last page, you do have a bit of coding to do for the HTML, which is different than the other pages. The other pages, the HTML is probably there for you in the download, but you will have to do some coding for the HTML, and it's all about getting your divs right. Okay, you're going to need a div for the product, and then inside the product, you're going to have and notice we use classes for those, right? And using the classes is important because otherwise we would have a lot of problem with our styling. By using the classes, we can style all of those bits, the pictures of the phones can all be styled the same, and so that gave us this nice, very consistent sort of look. And so that was achieved by having all of these classes. And as I said before, we've got repeating elements in our code, and just one after the other. They're floated to the left so that they sort of fall in line, like people coming and sitting in a classroom. I imagine that and say, okay, well, you have to start at the left corner, and then we fill up like that. And so that's the exercise. I hope I've got it to